Hi everyone, this is HM&S video number 21 and you are most welcome for it. Today we want to talk about filter function in Excel, and we're going to see almost everything you need to know about filter function that can allow you to use the filter function very well. Filtering with a single criteria, multiple criteria, filtering using OR and Unlogical Test, and we're going to wrap up this video by seeing how you can use the filter function to filter our data, and we return only the selected columns, not the entire columns. Let's switch on to it and we master the filter function in Excel. I have this table here showing the HF company workers salary. We want to use this data to understand the filter function in Excel. So when I click on cell H4, then I do equals to filter. When I see it highlighted in blue, I hit tab to select it. Now it has three arguments: the array argument, include argument, and then the if empty argument. Now in the array argument, that's where you put the range of values where you want the results to be filtered from. And then in the include, that's where you do the logical test. So this logical test you do, it results either in true or false. So whenever the test comes true, Excel will know that that record needs to be included. And when the results comes false, that's when Excel will exclude the record. Now in the if empty argument, that's where you put anything you want to be displayed in case the filter function did not find what you are looking for in the column where you are filtering your data from. So let's hit escape to remove that, then we start the filter function afresh. Equals to filter, tab to select it. Now in the array, I want the entire array, comma. In the include, that's where we are going to do our logical test. So I want to include only the records that is having gender, which is female. That means we're going to check in the gender column, then we filter only the data that is having female. So for this case, I'm going to highlight the gender column and then equals to. Now let's start by add coding it into our formula. So anytime you're add coding a text in a formula, you need to put it in double quotes. So open quotation, F for female, close quotation, and then when I hit comma to go to the if empty argument. Now this one we are also going to put a text, so you also put it in double quotes. Open quotation, I'm going to put not found, and then you close quotation, and then when you close your bracket on the filter function and hit enter, you can see that we have three records that are having gender of female. Now you can already see that when you filter your data using the filter function, it doesn't display your field names. So whenever you're using filter function, you need to copy your field names, Control C, and then you paste it somewhere where you want the results to be displayed. I'm just going to remove the border, just like that. Now let's see how we can do it without add coding the value in the formula. You click equals to filter, tab to select it. Now in the array, since we already have our field names here, I'm going to highlight excluding the field names, comma. Now when it comes to the include, I'm going to include only if the gender column is equals to. Instead of add coding the female in our formula, I'm going to click, select it, I've already put it here. So you click on it and then comma. Now in the if empty argument, that one is an optional argument. If you leave it out, Excel will give you an error in case it did not find that value. But for our case here, we are sure M is there, so we are going to leave that argument out. So you close your parentheses, and when you hit enter, you can see that we got the same results as the one above. Now the advantage of not add coding it into the formula is that when I decide to change a gender from female to male, watch what happens. If I hit enter, I got a spelled error here. That means some cells where the results are supposed to be spelled is having something. So when I scroll down, highlight this, and then scroll back, still I'm having that spelled error. So let me highlight this and then scroll down. Boom, you can see that the results can now be spelled because the cells are now empty. So you can see that when you change your criteria like this one here, the one where you have coded it in did not update, but this one here where we were using cell reference, it updated. Now the filter function is one of the dynamic spelled array function where the results also get spelled the way you have seen it here. So all the dynamic spelled array functions, when you do it, the formula only lived in the cell where you put your formula. That's why when you click on this cell where we have put our formula, and then you check the formula bar, you can see that the formula is there. But when you checked anywhere, the formula is grayed out. The same applies to this one. The formula is there, the formula is grayed out. So that is how the dynamic split array functions works. Now let's scroll down a bit. Here we want to use the filter function to filter using 3 different conditions, so 3 different criteria. We want to filter out the records only when the gender is equal to male and the department is equal to statistics and the age is greater than or equal to 30 years. That means what we are doing here is an unlogical test. So for a record to be included when you are doing an unlogical test, it needs to meet all those criteria. All those criteria needs to come true in order for it to be included. Now when you come to our data set here, let's see for example the first record here for Chong. Gender is equals to male, that is true. And then the age is greater than 30, that's true. And then the department is finance, so this is false. So since there is false here, even if the first and the second criteria was true, since there's already false here, that means this record will not be included. Now when you come to the second record here, the gender equals to male, that's true. Age is greater than 30, that's true. And then the department is statistics. So this record here will be included because all the 3 conditions are met. So that's how the unlogical test works. All the criteria need to come true in order for the results to be true. And the include function needs true for it to include the record. So let's see how we can filter using the unlogical test. Equals to filter, tab to select it. Now in the array, I'm going to highlight this array and then comma. Now in the include, all the 3 conditional criteria needs to be put in the include argument. So I'm going to start with the gender. We want only if the gender is equals to male. Now when I hit comma, it takes me to the next argument, that is if empty, and that's not what I want. I want to include everything, all those conditions. I need to put them in the include argument. So we need to get a little bit tricky. We need to put this in bracket. So I'm going to open bracket and then come to the end, close the bracket. Now if you're doing an unlogical test in Excel, you need to use the multiplication operator, that is asterisk in Excel. So I'm going to multiply it with the second criteria, open bracket, and the second criteria we are going to include only if this department is equals to statistics, and then you close your bracket. Again we need to multiply it with the third criteria, open your bracket, and the third criteria is only if age is greater than or equal to 30. So you come to the age column, highlight the age, are you greater than or equals to 30? So you close your bracket. Now if you check very well, all the 3 conditions is sitting in the include argument. Now if I highlight all the 3 conditions and then evaluate it using the F9 key, you can see that it's giving us 1 and 0. Now in Excel, any non-zero number is considered true and then 0 is considered false. Whenever you're seeing 1 here, then that is a true for Excel. Now for our case, the first value we're seeing here is 0, and that's false. That's because when you check the first record here for Chong, it's like getting true, that is 1 times another true, that is 1 times 0. And whenever you multiply anything with 0, you get 0, and that one is false. That's why we are getting this 0 here. So whenever you are seeing 1, that means all the conditions were met. So I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. So the last argument you may put or you may not put, and we're not going to put it. You close your bracket, and when you hit enter, you get a spelled error. I'm going to highlight this and then scroll it down. You can see that our results is now spelled. Only the records that are having male, age greater than or equal to 30, and then the department of statistics. So that is how you do the unlogical test in Excel. You use the multiplication operator. Now let's also see how we can do the OR logical test in Excel. You click equals to filter, tab. Now in the array, we want this entire array, comma. Now in the include, we're also going to use the same criteria, but this time around we're going to do the OR logical test. Now the OR logical test means whenever there is any true, that record needs to be included. Now for example, let me first escape this. When you come here, we want gender to be male, or department to be statistics, or age to be greater than or equal to 30. Now when you come here, the first one, gender is male. automatically, once you have already seen a true, like for our case, this one is already male, even if the rest of the criteria comes false, since there's already one true, that record will be included when you're doing OR logical test. You come to the second one, already this one is male, so even if the rest of the criteria comes false, the record will be included. Now when you come here, this one is the sales department, but since the age is greater than 30 years, the record will be included even if this is female. Reason being, there's already one true here. So when you're doing an OR logical test, whenever there is any true, that record needs to be included. So let's see how we can filter using the OR logical test. You click equals to filter, tab to select it. In the array, we want the entire array, comma. Now in the include, we're also going to use our trick. Open bracket. I'm going to start with the gender. We want only if gender is equals to male, and then you close your bracket. Now when you're doing OR logical test, you use the addition operator or the plus. The other one we were using the multiplication operator for the AND logical test, but when you're doing OR logical test, you use addition operator or the plus operator. So you add or you use the plus, open bracket, you put the second criteria, department needs to be equals to statistics, then you close your bracket, and then plus, open bracket, age needs to be greater than or equals to 30 years. Now you close your bracket. Now all this one is sitting in the include argument. Now let's also evaluate this one and we see what is happening here. When I highlight only in the include and then I hit the F9 key to evaluate it, you can see that we're getting a bunch of numbers here. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then it's false here. That means whenever you're seeing a non-zero value, Excel will evaluate that one to true. So we are seeing bigger numbers here because we are adding it. Now for the first one, we are getting two truths. Gender is male, that is true. And then age is greater than 30, that is true. However, the department is finance, that's false. So it's getting two truths. That's why we are seeing 2 here. So it goes like that for the rest of the record. So I'm going to Control Z to undo that. The last argument, we can leave it out. You close parentheses, and when you hit enter, you can see that all these records here are having at least one truth in the conditions that we have given it here. So that's how you can do the AND and OR logical test. The AND logical test, you use the multiplication operator, and then the OR logical test, you use the addition operator or the plus sign. Let me highlight and let me move my criteria here. For this case here, I want to filter our data based on one column. That is the department column, but we want only if the department is statistics or finance. So last video I told you that when you're doing a logical test on one column, that means automatically you're doing an OR logical test. So our case here also, this is an OR logical test. So we are going to use the addition operator or the plus in the include argument. Let's see how we can do it. Click equals to filter, tab to select it, the array, this entire array, comma. In the include, I'm going to open bracket. First, I want the department when it's equals to statistics, then you close your bracket, and then we are doing addition operator plus, open bracket, again the same department column equals to finance. So you close your bracket. This time around, let's use the if empty argument, comma, open quotation, not found. You close quotation, then you close your bracket. When you hit enter, you can see that we are getting only the records for the Department of Finance and Statistics. Now, if I come here and instead of finance, I change it into a Greek. Let's hit enter. You can see that this time around it's giving me only the records for statistics. Again, when I also come up here, and then I change it to commas, enter. That's when we now get our not found. If you remember the third argument where we put not found, if all these criteria we have given here is not found in the columns where we are filtering, that's when it will give you not found. And for example, if we are to come here and instead of putting not found here, we backspace, 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 and then we leave it blank. When you hit enter, you get a calc error. So this is the default. So I'm going to change this one back to statistics and then finance. Enter. Now here we also have 3 criteria. The first two criteria are all logical test, and the third one is unlogical test. But we want to see how we can mix all logical tests and the unlogical test in one formula, how we can filter using a mixture of those two logical tests. You click equals to filter, tab to select it. Now in the array, you want the entire array, comma. In the include, that's where you put all those three conditions. You open bracket. We want only if the department is equals to finance. You close your bracket. Now we're doing an OR logical test here because from the department column, you need two departments, that is finance and then the sales. So I'm going to do plus, open bracket, the same department column when it's equals to sales. Then you close your bracket, times, this one is now an unlogical test. When the year in is greater than 2015, you close bracket. Now let's see if this one will work. The last argument, we want the default. When you hit enter, you can see that we are getting only one record. That means it did not work correctly. So let's first come here, hit the F2 key to put it in edit mode. Now we made a mistake. So what we needed to do, since the finance and sales, they are all from one column, we need to put them in their own bracket. And then you also put a bracket here. So the all logical test, put them in brackets, and then the unlogical test is outside the bracket. That means we're forcing our formula to calculate this all logical test first and then multiply it later on with the unlogical test. So when you hit enter, you can see that we now have the correct answer. Now this final example, we are going to see how we can filter data using the filter function, and we display only the selected column, the columns we want, not the entire columns. If you check up here, we were displaying all the columns from our data set, but this time around we want to filter it, and then we display only the three columns. And the columns we want names, gender and salary. After filtering this data set using a simple one condition, that is male, you click equals to filter, tab to select it. Now the array, we want the entire data set, comma. In the include, we want to include when the gender is equals to male, and then you close bracket. Now if I hit enter right now, it will display for us all the columns, and that's not what we want. If you want to display all the columns you want, then you need to use the second filter. You nest the filter function inside the filter function again. So I'm going to do filter again, tab to select it. Now the array is going to be the results of the first filter function. This filter function here is going to be our array. Now when I hit comma, in the include, we need to do what's called an array constant. And when you're doing an array constant, you need to put it in curly bracket. So you open curly bracket, name is in our first column, gender second, year in third, fourth, fifth, and then salary is in the sixth column. So you put there true or falses in all those columns here. So for our case, the first column is name, and we want name to be displayed, so we are going to put there 1. I told you 1 means true in Excel. And then you put comma. The second column is gender, and gender we also want it's here, so you also put there 1 to means true. Then comma, the third column is year in, and we don't want year in, so you put there 0. So when you're doing an array constant, comma means go to the next column, comma, the fifth is age, that is false, 0, comma, the sixth is department, that's also false, 0, and then comma. Now the fifth column is salary, and we also want salary to be displayed, so we are giving it 1 to means true. So you close your curly bracket. Now when you hit comma, it goes to the next argument, that is the if empty, and we want the default, so I'm going to backspace, close parenthesis, and when I hit enter, you can see that we are getting the filtered results, but only displaying the columns we want. Yeah, that is it about filter function in Excel. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, and if you found this video interesting, like it and you share it with your friends as well. If you want to learn different techniques of filtering data in Excel, click on this playlist, then you go and watch all the videos we have uploaded about filtering data in Excel. Until next video, HM&S video number 22, and then we meet again. Thank you.